welcome back to the More podcast, where we're bringing you guys more episodes all centered around relationships, marriage, and just like thriving in life in general, you know? So today we have a really great topic for you guys. We're talking all about the do's and the don'ts of marriage, and this is all from our perspective. So don't shoot the speakers, okay?
Very subjective.
Very subjective, okay? But before we jump into that, I definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in to episode 3, and then we also want to let you guys know that we would really appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then also follow us on Apple Podcasts and give us a like as well. It's always appreciated as we're trying to grow. If at any point during the episode as well, if you have any questions or if another topic pops up in your head and you're like, ooh, I would love for them to talk about that, definitely let us know in the comments. And yeah, we're gonna just jump right into this conversation. So Tim, Tiffany, how are you guys doing today?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Feeling excited.
Excited? We're back after like a whole month gap.
Yes.
A whole month gap.
Life started life.
I'm gonna blame on them.
Yeah, life
on them. I'm just kidding. Okay, so as you guys know, we always start off each podcast with a fun question. So I have a question that's kind of related to today's topic. And yeah, we'll just jump into the question. So, Tim and Tiffany, if you could create your own marriage rule book, what would be one do and one don't that absolutely must be included, and why?
I'll let you go first.
I say a do is I believe a must be we do have to go on vacation, like we have to go on vacation. Don't I don't know. Don't stop loving me. I don't know.
Okay. How about you, Tim? It's your turn.
Oh no, I take mine. I say don't give up on each other.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I would say I'm with her. We do have to go on vacation because we slowed down over the years, you know, of course, with careers and stuff like that. But the don't is don't stop forgiving. Don't stop forgiving, because I think it's going to be an essential to a long-lasting relationship.
Okay. That's good. This makes me think about non-negotiables. Like when you guys were seeking out your partnership, did you guys come into the relationship with non-negotiables of like, if you feel this way, I don't know if you guys have certain aches or like, do you guys have non-negotiables?
I think we accumulated non-negotiables over the years.
Okay.
We didn't come into the relationship like that, as we got married when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
So we didn't have all those non-negotiables. I know a lot of people got a long laundry list now, and as the world evolved, sometimes our lists evolved.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a list. All we had was love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody else is as curious as me. What are your non-negotiables with each other right now? Like something she can absolutely not do. What would literally, I know you guys are together forever, but like what would completely like turn you just off from her, like, or just make her give you the ache?
For me, the only thing is just disloyalty.
Okay.
I think everything can be forgiven. I think even that can be forgiven. But that's kind of one of my big turnoffs.
Okay.
Is just being disloyal.
Okay.
Because disloyalty it equates with respect. And as a man, that's where our love is really shown and predicated on, do you respect us, right? And so it equates to loyalty.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go biblically.
Okay.
And still say not loving me, because you know the husband's supposed to love the wife as Christ loved the church. So, and he always said one of the hardest things for men to do is God gave the man the hardest thing to do is to love. So I feel like if he ever stopped, that
Okay.
not doing he felt like,
Okay, that's, I mean, those are pretty good answers. I want to touch on the disloyalty. I feel like there's tiers of disloyalty. So it's here, as soon as people hear disloyalty, they automatically think of cheating probably.
right.
But disloyalty doesn't have to be cheating. It could be everyday life, everyday conversations that you're having with your friends, your family, about your significant other too. And I feel like in relationships, especially nowadays, you have to be really, really careful about, blabbering in your mouth, because your mouth can get you in trouble. We all know that. And it's kind of like what you tell the kids. It's like a family business stays in the family.
Right.
It's the same. It should be the same thing with marriage too.
It has everything to do with character and integrity. That's where it comes with loyalty. It's the foundation of the root cause of things. You can be disloyal in finances. You can go out and say, hey, I give you this amount of money to go pay the bills, and you can go pay it on a purse or whatever the case may be. It's so many things that can equate to disloyalty and just not infidelity. So I absolutely agree.
Awesome. Well, let's just, I think today we'll just facilitate the conversation around the do's and then the don'ts. Or would you guys rather do like do's and don'ts mixed in?
Have at it.
Okay, let's do the do's and the don'ts. So I have a preloaded list of do's and then don'ts. So I'm gonna just name them off, and then I'll let Tim and Tiffany discuss them, and that's just how we'll go from there. But let's see. Let's talk about communication. So let's do the do's. Actually, let's do each topic and the do's and the don't with each. Let's do that. Okay, so we're gonna start off with communication. So what do you guys feel like are the do's of communication?
I think for communication, one of the do's is you always make sure that you have transparent and open communication.
Yeah.
Because as a man, and I'm speaking on behalf of men, sometimes we're more secretive when it comes down to our communication. We shut down oftentimes, and we don't really express how we feel, where we are. And I think sometimes that put a monkey wrench in a relationship, because that person, your wife is not, your partner is really not made to think on your behalf. They don't know what's going on in your head, so you have to actually express that. And so to really get and land on common ground, I think you have to have that open dialogue, that transparency, and say, you know what, I'm gonna let it all out without any barriers.
Okay. So when you let it all out without any barriers, are there any don'ts with that? Because that sounds like fighting.
Yeah. I say the don't with that is, if you're communicating and say that you're in a confrontation with each other and you're trying to communicate, don't communicate when your emotions is high in the heat of the battle. You don't want to communicate that, because I think everybody's trying to win an argument and trying to win and say, this is how I feel, this is my side of the story. And I think sometimes you have to let emotions resonate and resolve first. And then when everybody is calm, everybody's emotions is intact, I think now we can sit down and communicate at the table, because sometimes you can say things that you regret. And sometimes when you throw it out there, you cannot take it back. It's going, they will forgive, but we won't never forget. How can we? Because our minds is a database. And so I think, you don't want to be too open when it's too heated.
Okay. Don't want to be too open, but it's too heated. You guys heard it from Tim.
Right.
That concludes today's podcast. No, that's so good. That's so good. I feel like with communication too, what you said, the transparency, that's so important. But with communication comes like trust as well. So it's like you have to trust me enough to feel open to communicate. So you trust me enough to communicate openly in our relationship. And then you already talked about the loyalty. I feel like loyalty comes with communication as well, because if you know some information that you're withholding from your partner that could really affect them, you're not open to communicate. Don't do that.
Right.
But yeah, okay. Anything else you guys want to touch on with communication? Did we hear from you? Because she be over here just like, no, we want to hear from you. You are the people's choice. So we're talking about communication, the do's of communication.
I say, you just express it all. It's like, you have to, communicate openly. And I'm learning it. I'm learning, because, women, we sometimes shut down too. And but with me, sometimes, knowing that he deals with so much stress and different things that, okay, I'm dealing with this, but I don't want to, communicate about this because he's already dealing with it. But I guess at some time you just have to break through all of that. Talk. Get your thoughts.
That's a really good point, because I feel like a lot of times with women or men in general, just depending on your communication style, you could be the kind of person that just continues to bury stuff, bury it and bury it and bury it. And eventually,
Yeah, sometimes that's why you just started going off because you didn't have a lot built.
And they're like, where did all this come from?
It's like a volcano, and that lava then it holds back, and then when it's time to explode, it begins to erupt. And sometimes you start pouring and bleeding out on others who didn't hurt you,
Right.
and they didn't cause the hurt, but you had all that animosity, all that tension just built up. But two, we have to create a space for each other to come and say, hey, this is the time that we're taking out. Because everything in life is important.
Yeah.
Everything is important, but it's up to us to manage what's priority at the time. And I think setting some space out and some time to say, hey, this is our time to communicate. This is our time to have, uninterrupted time where you can express how you feel, express how I feel. And it's time to get us off our chest because all of us, I think, are dealing with something that's traumatic. I think all of us experiencing and dealing with something that's just crazy in our minds, and we just need help even processing it and compartmentalizing it. Because everything is just like spinning like a whirl, and you need somebody, not just a therapist, but you need somebody there who can say, "Hey, why don't you think about this and doing it that way?" And you be like, "Oh, that sounded simple. I didn't even think about processing it like that." So I think creating that openness in that time for communication is key.
Yeah, I think that's key too. Which brings me to our next point, which is all about prioritizing your partner. So now we're going to talk about the do's of prioritizing your partner. So how do you guys make sure that you guys prioritize each other or make sure that each other feel prioritized? Because sometimes you may not actually be prioritized, but you can make them feel prioritized, if that makes sense. You guys understand?
I think me personally, I'm still working on that.
Okay.
I think that's something that I'm still trying to grow in because I'm still trying to, even 15, going on to 16 years of our marriage, I'm still trying to figure out how to prioritize everything. Because, when you have so many talents, so many gifts, and you're getting pulled from so many directions, it's really hard to sometimes balance life out because it depends on what's the flavor of the day or the flavor of the week. And even at work, like I can say last week I had a corporate visit at work. Everything else lost priority, and I had to give my full attention to work morning, noon, and night. But there's times where nothing going on throughout the work week. Then I give family priority. So I'm still working on that, on how to balance that. But I think Tiffany probably can answer it better than I can.
You think so?
Because I suck at it, yeah, and I know that, but I'm wrong.
But do you guys think is it honestly, truly possible to have your husband and wife at the priority of everything 24/7? Because even within, let's say, I'll give you guys a scenario.
Okay.
So let's say that she's a homemaker, so you're at home, you're taking care of the kids, but Tim's coming home and he's worked hard all day, he's ready for dinner, but one of your kids hurt themselves. So instead of making sure that he's the priority and making sure that, he has a hot meal on the table when he comes home, you now have to prioritize your child. So I feel like it shifts.
Yeah,
it does
exactly.
fit. Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about. It depends on the flavor of the day.
Oh yeah.
Because your husband can be priority on Monday, become Tuesday, you know, you gotta, you know, see to, it could be see to our dog on Tuesday,
Right.
because she could be sick, you know, or the puppy. So it depends on the favor of the day. But I think it's key to understand when to prioritize and when that person needs you the most.
Okay.
And I think we have to be able to discern that, because sometimes, you know, she can be going through a low place in a low time. And I say, y'all will say, you know what? I need to take her out. I need to get her out the house. I need to give her different scenery and stuff like that. And so you got to be able to read your partner.
Okay.
And so you can prioritize.
Okay. Anything you want to add, or you disagreeing? Well, I mean, okay. Well, I feel like you were pretty established at prioritizing.
Yeah. Cause like he said, it changes. So, but I think you can be mindful, you know, of your priority. If that makes any sense, like just say if, like you said, if one of the kids have to come before him, but still making sure it could just be going back to communicating, like, hey, instead of him coming home, we not there, what's going on, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, so I can still say, hey, this is going on, you know, kind of let you know, I haven't forgot about whatever, but this is what we got going on. I'm not there with a hot meal.
Okay. So, I mean, that kind of correlates with the don't of like, do not like miscommunicate your prioritization or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so let's get on to a hot topic that everybody loves. Let's talk about forgiveness. So, what are the do's and the don'ts of forgiveness?
F-bomb.
Yeah, literally the F-bomb. I think that people don't realize, you know, the depth that forgiveness really has. I feel like we throw the word forgiveness out there and you're like, oh, you have forgiveness. But like really learning and understanding how to forgive and how to let things go is a hard thing to do, especially when navigating relationships and reestablishing trust or whatever was lost within that forgiveness. So what are you guys' do's of forgiveness?
I think as I grow older, I like to forgive fast. Like, you know, I'm saying, as growing older and realizing more and more that life is really, really short. And, you know, a lot of times people, they go off for work and they never come back home, you know, or going off of marriage, going to your children, you know, even telling them, hey, I didn't speak to you the right way, you know, for asking forgiveness. You know, we live in a crazy world now.
Yeah.
And you see your kids at school and they not coming back home. So, you know, just, you don't want that to be the last thing, you know, was that you didn't forgive. So I think forgiving fast is, you know, just going ahead and getting it straight. It's like, what's the big deal? You know, just get it. Go ahead, get it together.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, you know, forgiveness is key. And that is actually, I believe, something that I do hang my hat on, because I understand that you can't move forward without forgiveness. Isn't love proven rather than always stated?
Yeah, but
sometimes everybody want to hear love, but for me, I want you to show me love.
That's showing, because you know what happens after you didn't take me to get something to eat, after you didn't bought me a gift, that issue is still there. It haven't gone anywhere because we haven't went to the situation.
There's no closure.
There's no closure.
So is that going back to where y'all need words of affirmation?
No, it has nothing to do with words of affirmation. Let's say that Tiffany, you have a favorite pair of shoes.
Uh-huh.
Like these are your favorite pair of shoes, and she happened to be painted the front. She spilled paint all over your shoes. So you come home and you like, what in the world happened to my shoes? And she's like, oh, I accidentally spilled paint on them, but I made you a big dinner, like come sit down and eat. Like you're gonna be like, wait, I mean, this is nice, thank you for the dinner, but I still want my shoes. Like these are my shoes.
Right.
But what if she say, I got a nice dinner for you, and then let's go out real quick. She takes me to go get another pair
Okay, well,
of shoes.
Okay, well then that works in that instance, because that's her, taking you to the store to buy the shoes.
But
It's
she's
basically
fixing
an
the issue
apology.
without having to say it. She's still fixing it through action
Okay,
and not words.
okay, but that's little stuff.
Right,
When
so
it gets to the deep stuff,
Okay, such as
let's say, okay, we were talking about disloyalty earlier with cars and stuff. You gave her money to pay the rent,
Yeah.
and she went and booked y'all a vacation instead.
Yeah.
In that moment, what actions do you want her to do besides paying or taking the money back and putting it on the rent? What in the world? What kind of actions could she do to say sorry in that moment? You don't care about nothing.
Right.
No, I just want her to fix it though. That's the thing. As long as it's fixed, that's the thing. That's where forgiveness. That's where forgiveness come in. Is if a person is willing to fix it, whether you say it, whether you do it, it just needs to be fixed. I think it's all about the receiver. How you receive it. Maybe you may need the words of forgiveness, but I need you to show me.
But there's something about somebody owning up to their mistakes too.
Yeah.
And that's a different cheers though.
There is level accountability.
I think you're being a little extra because you wouldn't want nobody to say, if something that really hurt you, you wouldn't want me to just move on from it and get you something and try to cover it up. No, you need to admit that you did such and such, or you said such and such. And
I think we need to swallow our pride for sure and have self accountability. But again, I think
that's fine. Like you said, I think that's trying to go. That's all it is. It's so the simple words. I'm sorry. It's so hard for people. Mm-hmm. For me, it's hard for everybody. But it's just swallowing it and saying, "Okay, yeah. I was wrong. I'm sorry."
And I agree. I'm just coming from the standpoint of you have a lot of people who use their lips, but they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, which that's the opposite side of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want to hear you keep saying that you're sorry, but you're still doing the same thing over and over again. That's called insanity. Expecting different results, doing the same thing.
Well,
I don't want to be insane.
I think that's maybe a little deeper than what I was saying.
No. I'm just
when I said
what I've
seen, it was just like maybe a little minor.
Yeah.
If you talk to me wrong or something, don't just start being nice and
because I would be like,
right.
I don't care about you being nice. Like I want my apology.
Right.
Like I want you to, because words are in certain situations, words are powerful. And you just simply coming out and saying, hey, I admit that I was wrong. You taking that accountability sometimes weighs a lot heavier than the replacing of an item. Yeah. Especially when things continuously build up and you just already know, like, okay, I'm gonna get an apology for it. It's kind of like not even acknowledging the situation or the depth of the situation and brushing over it, you know? So you don't want to do that.
No.
But you do want to support each other's growth, which is our next topic. So how in the world in this day and age do you guys manage life and also support each other's personal growth?
Well, I'm gonna say how Tiffany maybe support me first.
Okay.
Before I say how I support her. I think she support me well. Because I do have such a hectic life where a lot of things are getting thrown at me. And it seems like I'm like a knight in shining armor where I'm trying to, always be on the defensive side and I got to be on the offensive side. And a lot of things get thrown.
Oh, it's really nice. You just couldn't be the knight. You had to be the knight and the shining armor.
Yes, I am the knight and shining armor. My own horn here. But a lot of things get thrown at me. And it's hard looking at her end. Versus, it'd be hard to be married to somebody like me. Looking at her end, if she had the busy schedule that I had, a lot going on, and you have this person who I'm just involved in a lot of things. And so it would be very hard, you have to be a person who has discipline. You have to be a person who can be self-reliant to kind of be married to me, and I admit that. I admit that. And that's the demand of my life. I didn't ask for it. God just gave me so many gifts, so many talents, so many responsibilities. I got a lot of influence. So I didn't ask for it. But I'm just trying to manage life as best as I know. So that's how she supports me.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna reverse it before I pass it on to you. How I support her is though I do try to push her. I am a pusher. Because I don't believe anybody should stay stagnant. I believe we should always be growing. Now, I'm not trying to change her, but I'm trying to help her evolve. And I think it's a big difference between changing somebody and helping them evolve. So I try to push her to the capacity. I try to encourage her and tell her she can do whatever she wants. Because sometimes, you can feel stuck, because you see your husband's success, you see him growing and doing things. And sometimes there is a mechanism in our mind where I've seen it before in other relationships where you can get jealous of your partner when y'all on the same team.
Yeah.
And you get jealous and this person is doing this person got this going on. What is my value? What is my significance? And so I try to let her know that she does have significance. She does have value because it wouldn't be a me without her.
True.
So I'm gonna toss that baton back.
First, I like to say you sound just like your father.
I thought about that too.
So it takes something to be married to me.
It does. It does. And I know that. I'm a great husband, but I just know just the demand. If you need all my time, you'll be very frustrated.
Yeah.
And there are some wives that need their husband time like 60-70% of the time. And that's just not us.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've grown to the level that you're at now?
Yeah, I was just about to say transparency. I haven't always been. It's been times where I say, I want your time. DG get all of your time. But now,
But all right.
yeah, it's fine. But yeah.
Got food on the table, clothes on my back,
And I think though,
kids are healthy.
if you can't change the situation in a marriage,
Gotcha.
you got to change yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't change yourself while you're trying to change the situation, you'll just be frustrated. You'll have all this type of animosity. You start hating and bitter.
Yeah.
And so if you change yourself and say, if this situation is not going to change, let me work around it.
Yeah.
Not saying that I can't change. Don't get me wrong. But there's certain things, certain dynamics in a relationship that probably won't change right now. And we got to know how to navigate through seasons. There's going to be a season where you're going to probably be tired of seeing me like, will he go to work or will he do something? But there may be a season where there's a little slightly isolation where I'm going through. I think we go through seasons. We got to know how to navigate and be able to identify what season that we're in our marriage. And I think that's key.
Yeah. And I think too, just staying mindful because sometimes you just be so, caught up with this and that, work or whatever else you have going on. And sometimes you have to be brought back and say, hey, I need to do this or I need to do that, with my marriage or with my wife or spouse or whatever, that you might not even have thought of.
Right.
That you're like, hey, I really haven't spent no time or whatever with. So I think it's just important just to.
But I think too, with growth, when we're talking about supporting each other growth, I think too, a lot of times you reel me in.
Okay.
Because sometimes I can be like a fishing pole, like I can start launching out. Because I must say that it's important. I thank God for favor because I have favor, and favor is not fair. But when you have favor, you have to be disciplined in your favor because sometimes with no discipline, you will start involving yourselves in everything, and you'll start going nowhere. You'll be involved in everything but going nowhere. And so sometimes Tiffany have to reel me in because I mean over time, I was working a full-time job. I was working at a pharmacy as a store manager. Then I was working in the nighttime overnight, as a night auditor at a hotel. Then I decided to open up my business, a cleaning business, and it was very successful. It was very successful, and she was like, "No, you're doing too much. Don't do that. I don't know how that's going to work." It was very successful, but the business took off faster than I anticipated, where I couldn't do it, and I was too shaky and scary on just launching out and saying, "I'm going to go and just launch out on my business," because it came too fast, and I wasn't ready for a fast success like that. But she reeled me back in, and so I appreciate her for always being that second ear, because I can sometimes say, "I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that," and you'll be a jack of all trades and a master of none. And so what I'm doing right now in my life, I'm just trying to master my responsibilities.
Okay.
And I think just being disciplined in those areas are really just helping me stay balanced.
Okay. I think we kind of hit it on the beginning, but I kind of want to talk about it just a little bit more. So I feel like it's an important thing to talk about nowadays in partnerships and stuff. There are points in times where, one partner will have more going on than the other partner.
Mhm.
And, since we're talking about growth and things of that nature, how do you really motivate your partner? How do you, let your partner know, "I believe in you, X, Y, and Z," when the things that they are working on fail? So let's say you did have your cleaning business and you're striving for that personal growth to add that to your, to who you are or whatever, and it fails completely. And you just can't get your foot up. You just, it seems like every single thing's going wrong. You just trying to do right by yourself. You just trying to become better and establish yourself. How do you support your partner during those tough times?
I think it's important not to, say, because your wife or your husband might have said, "You shouldn't have done this, don't do this right now." But if it fails, I think it's important not to say, "See, I told you it wasn't gonna work." Just try to be there as a support and say, "Hey, it didn't work this time. Let's try it again, and if another time, let's pick it back up when you're more prepared, or different strategies on being successful with whatever you're doing." So I think, going back, just don't, I guess, throw it in their face, like,
Yeah. And one thing too,
because that could be recent,
yeah, one thing I can say too, though, for us, and this is just talking about our relationship,
Mhm.
I think it's good too to have spiritual balance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, a lot of things that we have done, we haven't failed, because we do see God, we do see counsel. So when if we fail at something, it's something that's very minute, something within our personal character
Yeah.
or something like that. But for big life moments, a
Mhm.
lot of times we hadn't failed because we really seek counsel. I failed one time earlier on in my life with credit. Fell with credit, and I think this generation now that we're dealing with is much smarter than we were. Because
Your generation.
because I tell you, man, I screwed up credit, but that's something that I failed at the beginning, and it took me, being probably about, I want to say 27, 28 to figure it out, and I had to do it all back over again and get my credit back together. I failed at the beginning, though. One time I had 430.
No way.
Yes, wait.
I didn't think it was possible.
Right, right. But
Like, what did you do? Just flatline everything?
hey, when you borrow, and you think credit is free, you think credit is a gift and not a punishment, but I did that and I failed. I wasn't going anywhere. I struggled. And then a light bulb came on. And but I learned through that journey.
Yes.
I learned through that journey. But I had people to help us get back to the 700 club, right?
Yeah.
But it was a journey. Yeah.
Speaking of journey, I like to look at like marriage as like a road trip. You know, you were going through all these little touristy towns and stuff, and you might go through a valley, you know, or whatever. And that valley may be depression. That valley may be severe and limiting anxiety. So in those moments, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with each other when you guys are literally in a depressive state. But like, how do you deal with your partner in a depressive state?
Well, I like to say, my mother says a statement which is so true that God don't allow you both. God don't allow both of you all to be down at the same time. And that is so true because most of the time, if I'm down, he's good. He's able to pull me out of whatever that I'm facing or whatever I'm going through, and vice versa. When he's down, I'm good. Like, come on, let's get up. What's wrong? What's going on? So,
Okay.
And I think it's an ongoing process because I think it depends on what you got going on in your life at the time, And I think, personally, there's days where I still fall into, what we call sometimes depression, whether it can be for just stress, it can be grief, it can be just with the weight of life. Sometimes as a man, we have so much weight on us that eventually, if you don't get weight allocated off you or some kind of way or find some way of venting, you will get to the point where life just gets so heavy for you where you fall into a depression state. And, sometimes you're not even able to identify that you're depressed, right? And you have to kind of see yourself and look yourself in the mirror and say, man, I'm not who I used to be. I don't sound the same. My response is not the same. I don't think the same. And a lot of it is attached to it. Sometimes you can even look in your car as a man. If you drive your own personal car and your car is dirty, you'd be like, damn, if all these bags here, but it is a sign of, it's a reflection of depression. So you have to be able to identify that. But like she said, we're not never down at the same time. And I think it's important to, lift each other up and pull each other out, because if you leave that person there in that place and say, well, I'm just going to leave them alone, I don't think that's always the best option to leave people alone. You got to keep encouraging them. You got to keep, trying to push them and get them to get out of that and dig them out. If you got to get on your knees to dig them out, you got to find a way to dig out your partner.
I feel like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just like to say too that it's important to. That's why it's important to prioritize. Going back to prioritize your partner, whatever, because you should be able to see that. You know what I'm saying? I should be able to recognize, okay, he's not Tim, something's going on. Let's figure it out. Let me figure it out, because you know what? You don't want to be so caught up in what you got going on that you miss it, and then somebody else say, hey Tim, what's going, and he say, in his mind, he may not entertain whatever that is, but he may say, my wife missed it, whatever I'm going through, and no, she missed it, but such and such, she spotted it right on. So it's and vice versa. Yeah, it's both ways. Like, he should know, okay, and which he does. He knows when I'm not me, and he, like you say, dig and try to see what's going on.
I feel like those moments can either bring you guys together or they can further divide. Because in those times where you are facing depression or anxiety or whatever issues you may have going on, it's easy to want to isolate yourself.
Sure.
It's easy to want to just, crawl into a hole and like not want to deal with the world.
Yeah.
But figuring out how to get into that hole with them and bring them out. Like, that's important.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why the divorce rates are so high and stuff too, because some people, they complain. My partner doesn't talk to me anymore. My partner doesn't even look at me. My partner, I literally feel like my partner hates me.
Yeah.
And it may not even be you, but their mind is gone
Yeah.
in those moments. So I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't know how to navigate, So like the fact that you guys do have, structure set up in place for whenever you do notice
Yeah.
that he's down or she's down, that's really good
Yeah.
because
So I
it's
say,
easy
just
to
pay
overlook.
attention,
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah. Well, that is today's episode. The do's and the don'ts. I feel like we had a lot of good takeaways from today, from today's podcast episode. But definitely let us know what you guys' do's and don'ts of marriage are. And we want to keep the conversation going. I feel like we'll probably have a part 2 to this episode because it was just that good. But yeah, we thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
Please like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend, share this with your partner. Even if you got to clip a little second, like when it was like, do not do this, and like send it to your partner. Be like, see, I told you it's insulting when you do this.
Right.
But yeah, we want you guys to always be a part of the conversation because this is real marriages,
Right.
not just a marriage.
Right.
So we are all one big family. We want to hear from you guys, and we want to just cultivate a community that's all around surviving marriage.
Yeah.
Well, not surviving, but thriving in marriage.
Yeah, it's a community.
Exactly. Well, we love you guys.